Hey, this is Frank Yosa, CEO of Ketone, and we sell what is called the Ketone Ester, an exogenous ketone. But today I want to talk about answering a question that someone just texted me. His name is Chris, and he said, "Hey, I know you don't really recommend the ketone ester for entering a ketogenic diet, but I've done it before, and it took me 6 to 7 weeks. Is there any suggestions that you have?" And I decided, you know what, maybe I should do a video on what I suggest as far as how to enter a ketogenic diet, even though there are hundreds of videos and hundreds of opinions, and I know it's dreadfully hard to go through all the different opinions and decide which one you think works for you. So this will just be another opinion that hopefully will be different, because I don't just repeat other people's stuff, but you'll find it effective. So first of all, I don't think you need any supplements. You don't need ketone ester, definitely don't need ketone salts, and you don't need MCT oil. MCT oil, by the way, is like an exogenous ketone. So anybody that gives you gripe about a ketone ester being an exogenous ketone, so is MCT oil. It's the same thing. It just happens that the ester is 10 times stronger, and 95% less calories on how much ketones it can release in the body. So some tips that I would suggest. Number one tip, get a blood ketone meter. You can get Keto Mojo or Keto Coach. I think the coupon code is Ketone 10 or Ketone 15 on both of those sites. They're both great. Those are blood strips where you actually test your blood ketone levels. Throw away the urine strips. So the goal here is not to test your blood ketones every single day for the next few months, but instead just in the first couple weeks, transition period, start getting a feel for, what I ate last night. And I usually would recommend testing first thing in the morning. What you ate last night, how, if you ate a late dinner, early dinner, large dinner, small dinner, fattier dinner, more of a carby dinner, and you start seeing correlations to, that got me, 0.5 is considered entering into ketosis, where your body is burning fat and releasing and making ketones through your blood. So your goal is to be between 0.5 and 1.5, and I've even heard that sometimes numbers that are too high can somehow be counterproductive. It doesn't fully make sense to me, but I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor. This is just me doing it myself, seeing my wife, helping my wife do it, helping other friends and family do it. This is the video I'll be sending them, pretty much, and saving myself a half an hour phone call. No offense. But so first of all, the blood ketone meter. If your goal is weight loss, which is not everyone's goal, some people actually say, "Oh, I can't do keto because I actually want to gain weight." Well, I did another video on how to get fat. Doing keto, so you can. It is about calories. Some people think, it's just about you can eat whatever you want. I don't agree with that. So they say that the macros are 80% fat, 70 to 80% fat, 15% protein, 5% carbs, and that just seems like just a crazy number, crazy high fat. It's just mind-boggling to a lot of people, and the number one mistake that people make is eating too much protein. Their portions are just too large. They're steak, meat. I happen to be vegan, so I do vegan keto. I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying it is possible. People say, well, what do you eat? Well, yeah, I've got a list of 10 things that I can eat, and I survive. Smoothies, avocados, lots of nuts, and it's fine for me. But if you do eat meat, try to cut that portion in half, down by 75%, or bring with you a bottle of a small tube of liquid coconut oil, not MCT oil, but liquid coconut oil. Carrington Farms sells it for $8 to $10 a pound on Amazon, and just pour that on your meals. Now, someone said, "Oh, well, that has calories." Yes, it has calories. So if you eat the same size meal and add this fat, yes, you're gonna gain weight. But the idea is twofold. One, that 100 calories will make you 200 calories less hungry for that meal. So you'll eat 200 calories less in that meal. But it also changes the ratios of that meal so that there's more fat, because coconut oil is 100% fat. So that gives you more leeway to be able to hit your 80, 15, 5. And too much protein, think of it as filling up a cup of energy. And once it goes over 15% or 20%, if you're a bodybuilder, it goes into and becomes carbs. So people will find themselves, oh, I ate too much meat last night, and this morning I'm out of ketosis, hence the blood ketone meter. And if your goal is to lose weight, throw away that scale for 2 months. Just don't look at it. Even the stress that it has caused from the excitement and disappointment from that meter is just not healthy. And the keto diet is very misleading. The first 2 weeks, you might lose 5 to 10 pounds. That's why people love it. 5 to 10 pounds in the first 2 weeks. It's water weight. It doesn't count. And this has to do with when your body is getting rid of all the glucose. Every molecule of glucose holds onto a molecule of water. So when the glucose goes bye-bye, you just flush out a large amount of water. And that's where your scale is 5 to 10 pounds lighter. And you're like, hip, hip, hooray. And then people 2 weeks later say, I've hit a wall. Well, you just lost the water, and now the real work is starting to take place. So, Chris, another tip is to try to get through this keto flu phase. I hear frequently people saying, I can't, it's just not for me. My body doesn't respond. It must be good for other people, not me. No. Everyone goes through the keto flu, at least the first time, because you haven't learned some of these techniques, or you haven't learned other blog post techniques of getting around the keto flu. That's normal. I even heard of one guy, he was on stage and he was supposed to be an expert, a doctor, and he says, oh, he does cyclic keto and he does 4 days keto, but then his body just can't take it, so he restocks, and then he does 4 days keto. That's not keto. What happens is your body has like a battery. Think of it as a glycogen glucose battery. And once the battery goes to zero, that's when it just starts to work. But it can give you brain fog and stuff. So this person would start feeling the brain fog, not feeling good, and say, oh, I got to fill up my battery. So he fills up the battery. Well, only when you deplete the battery and keep it depleted does your body start to burn fat to make ketones. And the ketones is this alternative energy source. And he was just missing the point. And I was like, oh my God, he's supposed to be an expert. Here's 200 people in the audience. No wonder everyone's confused. And I'm not saying to follow what I say, but listen to 5 or 10 things, and hopefully you can put together the pieces. And that's part of the reason I tell people not to take the ester for the first time going keto, at least, is because you're going to mess it up, and then you're going to blame the ketone ester and be like, oh, it was your fault. So I don't even want to be a part of that. The other benefit of not taking any supplements is the empowerment effect of being able to do 1 or 2 day fasts with nothing except for salt, like a bouillon cube, because you do need salt. It's just very empowering mentally. If you take some supplements and they work, you might attribute it to the supplement and not to your own willpower and just control of food. So I don't think you need anything. The ketone salts, I have a whole separate video on ketone salts. The reason why they work, people think that they work, is during this keto flu period, is because of the salt, not the ketones. The salt is so massive that if I told you to take 25 salt pills, you would think I was crazy, like I was trying to overdose you. But if you took 1 scoop of some of this racemic ketone salts, it has the same amount of salt, and that would be considered, just 1 serving. So it's the salt that's helping people through the transition. That's why they'll take it for the first 2 weeks, and then they start saying that they can't put their fingers on, it stops working, the benefit goes away. Yeah, because after 2 weeks, you've transitioned into it, and you don't have that salt depletion. You still need to take a lot of salt. Salt is sodium, magnesium, and magnesium at night, sodium and potassium, not so much calcium. You just don't need as much after 2 weeks. So then if you take excess salt, you will get bloated. So people put the ketone salts back on the shelf for the next time that they transition in. Save a lot of money. I like to buy pink Himalayan sea salt in capsules because I don't like to drink salt water. And then potassium citrate pills. And I'll take 3 or 4 of those in the morning, a couple potassiums, and then 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And if I get foot cramps, I will, if you're in the keto flu and you get foot cramps, you might consider doubling that number for 4 days. Not just the day that you get the cramp, but just 4 days, because you really need to get more salt into your system. And if you drink too much water, that can also deplete yourself of salt because you urinate out the salt. So keep that in mind. If you're an excess water drinker and getting cramps, it's because of the salt intake. So another way to, this person was saying that it took them 6 to 7 weeks to transition. How can you do it faster? So another way is to don't ease into it. Just do it quickly, rip off the Band-Aid. And one way to do that is to start with a 24-hour fast. It's tough, but by depleting your body of all foods, that's the way that it'll rise your ketones the fastest. When I was trying different ways and eating higher and higher percentage of fat, and my blood ketones were, getting up into the 1.0, 2.0, only after this one day where a sequence of events happened where I skipped breakfast and then I skipped lunch and I wasn't planning to it, and then I had to vote, and then before you know it, it was 24 hours, and then I tested my ketones, and not only was it the first time I broke 2, but I was in the 4s. And I was like, oh, it's not so much your fat ratio, it's just the lack of eating will really deplete this battery that you really want to drain down to 0. Another technique that I learned from Ryan Lowry, and he wrote the book, The Ketogenic Bible with Jacob Wilson, so you might want to buy that, is sprinting. I think they might have even said 30 seconds, a few minutes of all-out sprinting will help really deplete that glycogen battery just much more quickly. You can take days or hours of a slow workout or days versus a full-out sprint can just really just deplete that. And once your system is depleted, then your body starts kicking into this emergency fuel source. Oh my God, I better start making ketones. Now, there might be a transition period where you're going to have some brain fog. And yes, you could take ketone esters, but I think you'll be fine. And when you take the esters, there's different protocols. If you're doing multi-day fasting, you want to take really tiny amounts a few times a day versus if you're doing one meal a day, then you can take, once or twice a day between 5 and 15 mLs. More is not better. If you take too much, it'll lower your blood sugar and make you hungry, but you really don't need any of that stuff. You don't need that. You don't need the MCT oil. You just need, coconut oil, olive oil. Some people use flaxseed oil, avocado oil, avocado smoothies where you put in some liquid coconut oil, avocados, a bunch of greens. That's one thing I don't like about the ketogenic diet. They don't tend to advocate for just healthy greens. Some people say bacon and pork rinds, and I just don't think that that's healthy, but it technically hits the ratios of 80, 15, 5. But you can really do what I call the Frank's nasty smoothie, not great tasting smoothie, but take a bunch of greens, kale, spinach, bok choy, put it in a Vitamix with liquid coconut oil, not the hard stuff, flaxseed, some chia seeds, and blend that up and get greens. Let's see what other techniques for, it's mainly salt. And that's the main problem, is the lack of salt, because people can't fathom the quantity of salt. This one book, Aubrey Marcus, I think he recommends 4 grams of salt. Now, if you want to follow his path, then if something goes wrong, you can blame him. And I'm talking about taking 3 or 4 pills, which might be 4 grams would be, I don't know, 20, 30 pills. So he advocates massive amounts. I'm just saying putting in a bouillon cube that might have 800 milligrams of sodium is going to do a night and day benefit. So there are some keto coaches out there that would be a good system. There's a process called Speed Keto. They have their own Facebook group. I've had a lot of people just love that system. It includes some 66-hour fasts that are rolled in there. It's a whole program. So if you're into programs and following programs, that's great. I'm not really into following programs. I'm into really understanding it and trying different things and testing the blood ketones and seeing what works for me. But the Speed Ketosis, also called Complete Keto, they have Facebook groups. I think they charge, I don't know, like $30 for a program, and then they give a lot of support on their Facebook, private paid Facebook group. Keto King on Instagram, Brandon, love him. He'll give tips on a daily basis on how to stay keto. And then Keto Connect is a very popular YouTube channel. And get started there. They'll give you some, walking through Walmart, what you can buy, walking through uh, Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, and uh, different suggestions. And then obviously they now have full-on cookbooks, so it's not just going through those stores, it's what you can eat. Um, and that's my suggestion. My email's frank@ketonade.com. I'm not really the best person to contact for, hey, how do I do the ketogenic diet? You can email me, but there are tons and tons of groups out there, and join some Facebook groups and stay quiet for a few days and just see the comments coming in and go through some old posts and learn about it. And then, if you're having some issues, post on there. And it's a great way to get support. It really works. Even though CNN might come out with an article quoting some doctor that says it's crazy, man, when you're living and breathing it, everything else just seems silly. I prefer living keto. I don't like going, I just don't get attracted to fruit, candy, cake. I just look at it and I think this is just going to make me a zombie for 24 hours. It's just not worth it. When I'm less keto or out of keto, I can't read my kids bedtime stories at 7 or 8 p.m. I'm like falling asleep. They're like, daddy, daddy. So it works for me. Now, am I absolutely perfect, great energy from morning to night? No, I'm constantly trying to make adjustments to my sleep and what I eat, whether it's keto or not. So no, it's not, I don't find it amazing. Well, yes, I like it compared to the carbs, but none of this, like, have I hit perfection. I'm constantly trying to improve. So that's it. My email is frank@ketonade.com. If you want to know more about ketone esters, you can join our Ketone Ester Facebook group. Hit the community button at the top of ketonade.com and hopefully learn something that might not be repeated anywhere else. All right. And thanks, Chris, for asking that question.